Bring in TaLisa Carter. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Justice Law and Criminology at American University here in Washington, D.C. Professor, I'd first like to get your reaction to this international inquiry. Crimes against humanity, is it valid, and what does it actually do?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you for having me on. So one, my initial reaction was good. Okay. So one, what does it do? And my reaction is combined. One, as a Black woman, right, who's U.S. born, this is kind of an international scale acknowledging the humanity of Black people. And that's really, really important in the U.S. context. This idea and these calls, Black Lives Matter movement, that our lives matter, for an international body, international human rights experts to say, hey, something's going on here and we need to dig deeper, we need to check it out. And more importantly, we need to hold the United States accountable is a really powerful thing. Now, if it matters, that depends on your context, right? So, for example, someone on the street, right, just a layman, maybe a construction worker, perhaps they don't feel the weight of this moment as much. But for someone like me, who's in the classroom every day, this kind of recognition is really, really a powerful thing, powerful to tell students, powerful to share here.
What do you think it would take for the ICC to move forward on something like this? Is it even possible?
Yeah, so one, many people, for example, believe that law has to be, people have to acknowledge, right, the power and authority of a body for action to take place. So the United States has to acknowledge the authority of that body, and to take and kind of really reflect. And so what does that look like? The steps is for us to take it seriously as a nation. For the United States to say, these representatives from around the world are saying something's up, and for us to kind of reflect on that. Now, arguably, there are movements and that calls that the United States is moving in the right direction in terms of this, right? So in that clip you played, they talked about the legislation that President Biden's administration is currently working on. But really, it needs to be all and not nothing, right? So it has to be a joint effort. So internationally and domestically, if we can fight the same battle, it would really make an impact.
Well, and that being said, you hit it on the head because while this legislation is under consideration, we have this sort of international recognition. Do you think the Biden administration and his attorney general would take that recognition, this international recognition, seriously? How should it handle this information?
Yeah, so great question. So one, I do think that in order to kind of honor our relationships with these countries, and really even more so just honor humanity, it needs to be taken seriously, this report, right? And it's not just the voices of people from the outside. There's interviews, right, with family, witnesses, people that were involved, right, in these instances and the consequences that have kind of lived in the shadow in the wakes of these deaths, these murders, these maimings of Black people in the United States. So really to put a spotlight on this report as valuable as we move forward as a country. And I do think that the Biden administration will do that, right? That's kind of what they've been echoing thus far, that they're taking this really seriously. But to integrate an international perspective, I do think will help kind of the way the United States is framed, it's the way it's framed itself and the way it will be framed going forward in the global space.